and much more. And once upon a time, a much younger version of our guest opened the show at the local club for a comedian who would later be known as Larry the Cable Guy. Jordan has presided over gazillions of humor workshops and always loves helping fellow Toastmasters find effective ways to wield their wit. This evening, Jordan will spend a few minutes identifying several simple strategies that each of us can harness right away, harvesting the humor potential that we have already planted in front of right in our own backyard. He's, he's a father of four, brother of four, and according to his wife, he has an emotional IQ of four. Let's welcome DTM Jordan Camenker with a presentation entitled A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Lectern. Jordan.
Thank you, Rajiv, for that introduction. I couldn't have written it better myself. It was great. Before I get started, I just want to say to Stephanie, I can't wait for your report. So we have to define what it is we're looking to do in the 14 and a half minutes that remain. I would love to entertain you and make you laugh. And that might be a byproduct of what's going on. But really, more importantly, what I'm trying to do is to arm you with a couple of strategies that you could harness and start wielding, in the next week or so. And I might give you several, and if you could just use one or two, I think that's going to be a win. Are we agreed on that? Does that seem like a reasonable proposition? Legally cool. Let's start by identifying some of the strategies that I used in the introduction. So, number one, never, ever, 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 ever let someone just read a bio. Just never let them do it. You create an introduction separate and apart from your bio. If you're going to speak at a conference or something, you have a separate intro and it's not your bio. They've got that in the program. That intro makes people want to listen to you and gives them a reason why. You notice I worked in some of the credentials. I don't like to puff myself up, but I want to make sure the audience knows, hey, maybe this guy's knows something and I ought to pay attention. I like to make up funny words. I've been doing it all my life. And one of them that I made up, I don't think it's my word, but I used it, gazillions. Gazillions combines a couple of strategies. One, hyperbole, exaggeration is a wonderful tool for humor. You've got to find the right way of doing it. But I'm telling you guys, I haven't done this just once or twice. I've done it gazillions of times. Another strategy I used, and we want to understand really what we mean by humor before I go further. This is Find Your Funny. So you have humorous experts coming in all the time, and you probably heard this, but it might be packaged just a little differently with me. So this is my understanding of what humor is. Humor is tragedy or pain plus distance. So, the famous bit that Johnny Carson tried to do back, I think, in the 70s, he does this joke about Abraham Lincoln's assassination. And the audience is stone cold silent. And Carson turns to Ed McMahon and goes, too soon. So humor is pain plus distance, but it doesn't have to be about pain. It is almost always set up and punch, set up and punch, set up and punch. The setup moves you in this direction, and the punch veers you off at the end in a direction you weren't expecting. One of the really elegant ways to accomplish setup and punch is by employing a strategy that works in non-humorous speeches, the power of threes. And you heard me use that in the introduction. I'm the father of four, true fact. I am the brother of four, also legally true. And according to my wife, I have the emotional IQ of four. I have another one I like to use. Jordan was born in Minnesota. He was raised in Sarasota. And by the looks of things last night, he's fond of scotch and soda. Let's welcome him anyways. So there's nothing we can't really turn into the power of threes. Set up, punch. Set up, punch. And keep in mind, too, there are some special strategies that you might want to employ if you're going to do stand-up. But most of us are not looking to do stand-up. You want to deliver an impactful speech at a conference, trade association, a workshop. You want to deliver a quality speech, and you use humor to help you connect with the audience. If that's true, just remember, it doesn't have to be a 10. It doesn't have to be a 10. It's just something to help you connect. And one of the best ways of doing that, by the way, is with your own stories. I could tell you a story right now about Lollapalooza. And actually, her name was Lolly, not Lala. And I dated her in high school. She was the town beauty queen, which, of course, you guys are thinking, okay, if she's the town beauty queen, which is true, what was she doing dating you? So, a story I like to tell. And years ago, I wish this were mine. I'm modifying and adapting it. And you need to start doing this now if you haven't already. You get a stack of index cards and start going over your biography. Mine your memories. Mine your memories. All of us have something that has a humorous quality in it that can be played with. I told you about Lolly. So my daughter, Mariah, was looking through my yearbook when she was in high school. Mariah's going through my yearbook, and she sees this picture of me at prom. And she goes, you hear the surprise in her voice, Dad, you were good looking. It was like the shock was absolutely delightful. And what I've just done is I've mined my memories. The stories, you have them, and family gives you such a treasure trove. I love to tell stories about my kids. For example, my son Benjamin, I guess it was his fourth birthday, and somebody, if I knew their name, I would curse it now. Somebody gave him some kind of contraption that required a dad to go ahead with screwdrivers and all this stuff and putting it together. And I'm not succeeding, and I'm trying, and I'm trying. The party's hour's gone. Benjamin's watching patiently, and finally he says to me, Dad, are you using the destructions? Mind your memories. Harness your family stories. They're just an absolute treasure trove. Questions so far? Y'all can feel free to interject here if you want. Okay. I know. It is tougher these days to do real humor. Folks tend to be, all of us seem to be just a little more sensitive than might have been the case. So there's certain things I want you to be aware of. I try to avoid. There are topics that, like sex and gender, politics and religion, tragedies. Somebody died. Now, if it's someone really, really old like me, then, you guys can start telling jokes 5 or 10 minutes, as soon as the body cools. Have fun. By the way, interjection. You remember I told you exaggeration? I'll get to that, but exaggeration with age. How old am I? Anybody know how old I am? Stephanie Bonnie Byrne? I told you once how old I was. I almost did this when I did a commencement speech a few months ago for my college. I stopped myself, but I was going to say, yeah, I know what y'all are thinking out there, you graduates. You're thinking, that guy is old. He is old. Yep, I am old. And you know how old I am? Then I had plants in the audience. How old are you? I am so old that when I sat where you're sitting, this college didn't even have history classes. We just had current events. Exaggeration is fun. So, topics that do work. And I understand this is being recorded. So, if you're not taking copious notes, you can come back. But animals, particularly your own pet, kids, particularly your own kids, have names, funny names for them. My children, some of you have known me a while, you know that I never called them my kids. I call them the rodentia. You make up your own words for things. I've been doing this forever, and it leaves me feeling splendiferous. Work, of course. You can make jokes about your employment, depending on where you work. You can make jokes about food, about clothes, about marijuana. I've got a whole routine on that. Traffic. So money, of course, and how much you earn. I told you. Okay, so exaggeration. I'm going to weave a couple of these together. I've only got a couple minutes left. One strategy when you go to a professional engagement, take stock. You want to connect with the audience. You can connect with them by talking about the elephant in the living room. What's going on at the conference that no one else is talking about? Some of you might have attended the 2006 district conference when I won the humor championship. District 47 at the time was the largest district in the world. It's since been carved up. There were 12 of us, I think. I figured that 4 could have won it. 4 could have beat me, and I couldn't have objected. What made mine different? What made mine different is that I rewrote part of it the day of, because the night before when they did the eval competition, the person whose speech was being evaluated did not stick around to hear the evaluators talk about him. Members of the head table, Toastmasters, guests, and so I rewrote my speech to weave that in. Pay attention to what's going on. I used exaggeration, paying attention to what's going on. Addressing a welcome back faculty event on the day before the first day of classes. Oh, it was the first day of classes. And it was done in this virtual thing. And parking was so bad that I had to park far away and in the rain. And so and other faculty were complaining. So of course, I used it in my presentation. I had to park so far away you could see the curvature of the earth. And they all laughed. It's not that funny, but for them, someone was acknowledging what everyone was talking about. Exaggeration and knowing what they're talking about gives you such an advantage. And you want to connect. That's why you're doing this humor. Questions? All right. I'll keep rolling here. And now, I don't mind making fun of physical characteristics as long as they're my physical characteristics. I think one of the most important things you need to remember, and a lot of people don't, humor is to be used as a balm, not as a sword. You use humor to warm up the audience and to build bridges and bonds and friendships. You don't use them to be snarky or mean or nasty. If you want to poke fun at somebody, you can do it all day long. Poke fun at yourself. I do it endlessly. I told my wife the other day, see, physical characteristics you wouldn't accept. I told my wife the other day, dear, I just lost 8 pounds. She said, oh yeah? Look behind you. I think your rear end found it. Talk to him. So I can do that. Yes, Sue, yes. And no, I talk about my hair. I see now, Rajiv, I don't know if this is the case or not. I see your hair is turning gray. Mine's turning loose. You can make fun about your. I have a. I don't have much time, so a couple of other. This is like an hour workshop, and I so wish. How much time do I have? 2 minutes, I think. All right, so I'll wrap it up. One or two other little things. No, nothing with Hitler, nothing with somebody who's controversial in the news. You don't want to do that. I talked to you about I'm going to end with something about poetry. Oh, and statistics. Give your audience a statistic. Did you know that 37.9% of all statistics are made up right there on the spot? It's true. So you can use funny statistics. Final thought has to do with poetry and parodies. I love parodies. Okay, I'll round it up. They actually read one of my parodies at a county commission meeting years ago when I did a play on Casey at the Bat. Just make sure the poem or the song that you write a parody on is something your audience is familiar with. I have this arcane knowledge about certain poets. Don't do that. Something everybody knows. Now, I'm done, but I've got one other thing that I want to show you. This also engages the audience. I wrote down all your names, and I'm going to put them in a hat. 4 scores and 7 beers ago. No, I won't do that speech here. I'm going to put him in a hat, shake it up. I'm going to draw a name without looking. And the name is William. Do we have a William here? William. Okay, here's the deal. If you want, you can contact me and I will give you 30 minutes to help you punch your material and work on the humor aspect of it if you'd like. And everybody here knows how to hunt me down. I yield control of the virtual lectern to you, and thank you for giving me a chance to chat with you all. I love this club.